Come, let us fix our eyes on Jesus. This is Unpopular Theology, episode 23. Today we are talking about the problem of evil in our first ranting and raving of a Lutheran pre-sem student in a while. Before we get started, go ahead and hit the like button, go ahead and subscribe, go over to our Facebook page, like us over there. We post new content there every Monday through Friday. And with that being said, I do apologize for not posting anything really meaningful the past 2 weeks on Monday and Tuesday. I'm going to try to do a little better at that and post new content on Monday and Tuesdays. Tuesdays, I'm going to try to go back to the Christian news. Mondays, I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm not going to be doing the devotions anymore. I'm going to be doing a commentary on a modern theological issue. So that should free up more time for me because I don't really have a whole lot of it this semester. And so with that being said, asking the tough questions, this is Unpopular Theology. So why am I doing this today? There is a very specific reason. If you are watching this on the Rantings and Ravings playlist like 10 years down the road or whatever, you might be going, okay, why is he talking about the problem of evil so early in the show? Well, the reason is because of the date. Today is September 11th, where we remember those who lost their lives in the tragedies that happened in 2001. And also current events. This is 2020. We're dealing with the coronavirus, riots in the streets, economic instability, all these things. And so I think it's a good time to ask, why is this all happening? And the other thing is, I think that the problem of evil is actually proof for the existence of God, which we'll get to a little later in the episode. So what is the problem of evil? Well, simply put, it's a question. It's really two questions. There's the surface level, and then there's a more complex question. Simply, why is there evil in the world? Why do bad things happen? And then a more sophisticated one would be, how could a good God allow bad things to happen? So I'm going to try to answer some of these questions today. And keep in mind, I'm a layperson. I don't have all the answers. I think if you ask your average pastor, they'd tell you they don't have all the answers. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I can't answer completely. Neither can pastors. There's a reason why it's called the problem of evil. So to answer question one, why is there evil in the world? Well, we got to go back to Genesis 3, where Adam and Eve both sinned and thus condemned all of creation, including mankind, to be subjected to sin and evil and death. And because we fell into sin and we took everything with us into sin, we live in a fallen world, and sometimes bad things happen. So that's a fairly simple way to answer a simple question. Now for question number two, I think it is a bit of a tougher question. And for that, I would say I don't know the mind of God. I can't claim to know the mind of God. And even members of the clergy could not claim to know the mind of God. And I don't think most of them would. And all I can say there is that God is merciful, and therefore, rather than smite Adam and Eve right after they sinned, he sent Christ to save them. So, yeah, that is what I would answer for a Christian. Now, if I were talking to an atheist on why this is happening, I would turn this into a proof for God. And here is my reason why. So if there is evil in the world, then there has to be good in the world. I mean, if there's evil and right and wrong, if there's evil, then there has to be good. If there's right, there has to be wrong. And if there is good, then there is a moral standard. And for this, I'll use the analogy of basketball, but you could use any sport for this analogy. So in basketball, there is a clear standard for what a foul is and what is not a foul. And we know this because we've seen refs miss calls, we've seen blatant fouls all over the place, so we know what a foul is. And we've seen refs make bad calls when it wasn't a foul. So, and those of you who have been under me managing when I've managed girls basketball, you definitely know that I've seen a lot of those calls. So, if there's a moral standard, which I think we can agree, because there is good and there is evil, then there has to be a moral lawgiver. And for this, I go back to basketball. A bunch of people didn't sit down. It wasn't, oh, by the way, this is now a foul out of nowhere, and nobody came up with it. No, Naismith came up with the idea that, you can't reach across somebody to try to get the ball away from them. You can't lower your shoulder into a defender. So that's basically it, So that gets us to God, but that doesn't get us to the triune God. So we go a little bit further. So now, if you're completely honest with yourself, you have not kept the whole law. That's pretty simple. I haven't kept the whole law. Nobody except for Christ himself has kept the entire law. And in fact, if I'm really honest with myself, I haven't even kept the whole law today. And I've probably broken all the commandments today. That's just the way sinful nature is. So, up to now, all religions agree. They agree that, there's evil in the world. They agree that there has to be some good, and there is a lawgiver. Unless it's atheism, in which case they would disagree on the lawgiver part. So, all theistic religions, if you will. So now we get into the person of Christ, who came to take away our sins, died on the cross to save us. And so that is the good news, that Christ dies to save sinners, and that by his death we become children of God through faith in him. And so this is very good news. We are saved because of Christ's merit for us. And I would say that Christ is the solution to this. Now, this is a very surface level argument. I agree. I haven't taken apologetics. My roommates that you might hear slamming doors in the background have taken it, are taking it right now, I should say. So they probably are a little bit more equipped than I am to answer this question. But yeah, this is now the moral argument for God. It's not an original thing for me. In fact, some noted apologists have used it. Ravi Zacharias, who passed away earlier this year, was known for using it. C.S. Lewis, basically the whole first part of Mere Christianity is the moral argument for God. And so with that being said, in conclusion, we live in a fallen world because we have fallen into sin. We know that things are bad now because of sin, but because there is sin in the world, we do know that there is good, and because there is good, we know there's a lawgiver, a standard of good and evil, and a person behind that. And we know that Christ has died to take away our sins, and on the last day he will raise us from the dead and take us to be in eternity with him, where there will be no more suffering. So that pretty much wraps it up. Next week, I'm hoping we're going to finish up responding to Soteriology 101, talking about irresistible grace and the perseverance of the saints. Yeah, hopefully we'll get done with that then. So until next week, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus.